This is the story of the curse of Mama Delo. It's well known across the islands that the water people are spirits who dwell in the rivers and waters, the murky waters and black creeks that flow through the dense forests and down the sloping mountainsides. These spirits protect the fishes and the waters. And if anyone pollutes these waters or is caught harming the creatures, you would face the vengeance of Mama Delo, also known as Mummy Water. On a small island, there once lived a young man named Thomas of Toko Village. And like his father and his father's father, he was a fisherman. They would set sail on their small vessels early before the sun had even kissed the sky. They would throw out their nets and they would bring in an abundance of fish. And Thomas grew up eating wild fish and hearing even more wilder stories from his father of their ancestors who protect the seas. But one evening, Thomas's father learned that he had been fishing in the river, something that was forbidden. And so he warned him, Thomas, you must fish in the sea like the rest of us. There is plenty of fish there for us. Let the river creatures be. They are protected by our ancestors. But Thomas was young and he just didn't believe in spirits or curses. And so one night his father sat him down to make him see some sense. They sat on the veranda in front of their home with the backdrop of just the chorus of the crickets chirping in the trees and the fireflies dancing in the grass. And he told him of the night that he had met Mama Delo. Son, one night, your grandfather and I were tired. We were exhausted after a long day at sea, and we were a bit lazy. We didn't want to empty our rubbish properly. We sailed out into the dark waters in the middle of the night, and we tipped our rubbish into the sea. We didn't think anybody would notice, but out of nowhere, a storm began, and it seemed to just be around our little boat. The wind was howling so ferociously that it was swaying our boat this way and that, swaying, crashing with the waves. I thought I was going to drown. Well, Thomas just shook his head disbelievingly. Well, that doesn't mean anything. That's just a storm. No, son, because it was then that I saw her rising out from the depths of the water. There was a woman with skin as dark as midnight and long black dreadlocks flowing around her face, and her tail was coiled like a serpent, and it came hissing out of the water. She lashed her tail down into the sea, and then his father sat back and took a sip of rum. Let the story just settle in. Thomas's eyes were wide open with terror. Go on, what happened next? Well, she let out a warning. Her voice just roared across the waters. She said, "Fishermen of the islands, I catch you fouling the sea. These waters here are protected by me. If any of you dare to harm the water creatures on my seabed, I gonna lash you for all eternity and make you wish you were dead. Well, my son, my hair turned crystal white that night, and we never fouled the waters again. Thomas was in shock. He was dismayed, but he still didn't quite believe. You see, he was of a new generation and he had ambition and stubbornness just jutting from his jaw. He thought, well, this is old time stories. And so despite what his father said, Thomas took out his boat that night and went to lay traps in the river. He laid out his nets and he sat as the dark waters were calm and still. And before long, an abundance of fish were filling up his nets. Oh my goodness, there was tilapia, yellowtail fish, blue tail snapper, so many, and no one on land could see what he had done. But Mama Delo was watching down beneath the surface of the water, biding her time in her underwater kingdom, resplendent with palaces of glittering coral and sea grass. She had fairy maids circling around her golden throne, waiting to do her bidding. Well, word soon spread throughout the village that Thomas's fish was the biggest variety, and he just sold more and more in all the markets, making more and more money. But everyone who ate that fish became sick the next day, vomiting up, spewing up everything they had eaten. A sickness just moved throughout the island, twisting and turning with the direction of the Caribbean breeze. Well, one of the elders, Marku, who lived on the outskirts of the village, she decided to connect with her ancestors, to appeal for protection and ask for advice. And so she lit a flame. She sprinkled some black salt, she burnt some incense, and then she sang her incantation and she swayed her hands to the rhythm of the flames. And wherever you are at home, when I say the word Cantalay, I'd like you to reply with the words, aye, aye. And so Marku swayed around the flames and the smell of the burning ash. Cantalay! 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 She sang and she muttered the names of all of her ancestors until she was able to receive their advice. Marku learned that night that the whole village had been cursed. They had upset Mama Delo. Only Thomas was not affected by this sickness, and she appealed to him to stop what he was doing. But he said, I'm not interested in any of that old time foolishness. And so before long, as the moon lit up the sky and the waters below that night, Thomas set sail in his boat once more. He threw out his net and he waited for the fishes to fill. But before he could blink, he heard a roaring and he saw this woman riding the crest of a wave, and he heard the snake's tail and the crack of a whip as Mama Delo called out from the waters, Thomas of Toko Village, your ears are too hard and so you're gonna feel. The wind howled and she let her tail snap his boat in two. The water was gushing in on Thomas's eyes, gushing down his throat, and he just clung to some planks for dear life. But it was too late. She coiled her tail around his body and she squeezed him tight, dragging him down beneath the sea. The following day, everyone recovered from their sickness, and Thomas of Toko village was never seen again. Some say that he just merely caught his fame and fortune somewhere else, but his father says that he was turned into one of the spirits, destined to do the bidding of Mama Delo and help protect the waters. Stepped on a pin and the pin bent, and that's the way the story went. Thank you, everyone.